Today's episode is brought to you by our local sponsors, Ravenwood Incense and Fragrance Producers, Betsy Cornell, licensed massage therapist, and Courtney Wiggins, social justice activist seeking equality for all. Thank you so much for your support.
Welcome to Ask a Witch, a podcast fueled by the curiosity of listeners like you. Join our host as she discusses various aspects of witchcraft and spirituality with intellectual and authentic members of the metaphysical community. This podcast is made possible by Blessed Bee Tea and Apothecary, a one-stop witch shop nestled in downtown Traverse City, Michigan. And now your host, the bewitching Bellamy Black.
Hi, and welcome to Ask a Witch. I'm Bellamy Black. In this podcast, we answer a variety of questions sent in by listeners just like you. Today, we're joined by Tanya. Tanya owns Ritual Holistics here in town. It's a really awesome, cool concept for a hair salon. She does really great work with people, and we'll be getting into that today because our topic discusses owning a metaphysical business. So I'm really excited. Thank you for being here, Tanya.
Thank you for having me, Allie. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. But before we get into that, let's talk about our tea. So today we're drinking Prosperity, which I thought was fitting since we're talking about owning a metaphysical business today. Prosperity contains peppermint, jasmine, allspice, patchouli, ginger, sage, and bay leaf. So this tea was put together to help bring success and wealth into your life. So all of the ingredients in it have been known by different cultures and different areas to bring success and wealth into your life. What I like about it is it's very fresh. The peppermint in it is very forward, and you can really taste that fresh menthol opening. But then it's also very grounding with the patchouli in it. So patchouli is actually part of the mint family. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
People don't really consider patchouli as an ingredient that you can ingest, but it is.
Yeah.
It definitely has a very earthy, grounding feel to it. There's jasmine in it, which is a very prosperity-driven ingredient.
Oh, yeah.
It is not a cheap ingredient, so bringing in, I don't know, you kind of like that mentality, like spend money to make money, kind of like I'm gonna enjoy this luxury while I'm drinking this tea. But I think the secret ingredient is the sage in it. So
nice.
Sage is a natural stimulant, so it's not caffeinated, but it gives you that energy and gives you that oomph that you need to like kind of get through your day. So it's a good tea to drink, like, I don't know, if you have to get through doing your taxes, or if you're like just in that final push to try to get something turned in for work, or it's good to drink in reverence to, like, or in ceremony if you're trying to get that job or get that house or find something abundant into your life. One thing my little warning here is that results may vary.
Yes.
I will say that.
Right.
So just because I'm selling it as a prosperity bringing tea doesn't mean that that's always what's going to come your way. Also, the universe might have something in mind for you. So say you really want that job, but you didn't get it. That's because maybe the universe has a better job for you.
Yeah.
So understanding that the universe sees you welcoming abundance into your life, but will do it in the way that it wants to do it.
Yes. That's another way of drawing in prosperity, really. It's just different.
Yes.
You don't...
Yes, exactly. And then also be ready. I've definitely had customers drink it with the hope of getting prosperity into their lives, and then they'll go home and there's like a $700 insurance refund check in their mailbox, which is a story a true story that somebody told me, and I was like, that's amazing. I love it when magic works.
Yes.
But again, results may vary.
It's one of my favorite teas. I keep it at the shop and drink it and share it with my clients, and like, I don't know, it's just one of the best ones to get me like through the work day, because it does it's not like because it's not caffeinated, I don't get super jittery.
Yeah.
I just feel like uplifted, but also grounded. And my clients love it too. So
Oh, good.
I love sharing your teas with my clients.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's funny you said that. I have a couple other small businesses in town that are like, that I kind of trade services for, and they're like, just bring me prosperity and we'll be good. So it's like, I think it does, like, people who are especially like entrepreneurially minded, you know, kind of like seek out this tea in particular. Yeah. So I'm glad you enjoy it.
Thank you. It's a beautiful blend. It tastes so good too.
Thank you. All right. So shall we get into our listener letter?
Yes.
Okay.
My lady, a message has arrived for you.
Thank you for the letter. All right, so here we go. Dear Bellamy Black, it has always been my dream to open my own metaphysical shop. Growing up in the 90s, I felt a romantic connection to the world of witchcraft, mostly encouraged by the TV shows and movies of my generation. One thing that really stood out to me was the occult store in the 1996 movie The Craft. The store owner seemed ethereal and powerful. She seemed wise and approachable. I longed for a shop that I could visit, a shop where I could offer myself as an apprentice to magic. But the closest I had was a head shop that sold incense. I think that's a common thing for a lot of people. As I delved deeper into my craft alone, I realized I longed for a place where I could feel community, a place where I could tell someone my dreams and discuss interpretations, a place where I could buy a cauldron or a rabbit's foot and not be looked at as some weirdo. Currently, I work for a corporate retail conglomerate. I hate it. I've been reflecting on my life's trajectory, and I keep going back to what Spirit is telling me. Open up a metaphysical store. So my question to you is this: should I open a store? What are some of the challenges you face in your store? How were you received in your community? That's a good question. I'm all ears and I'm eager to learn. Thank you, Bellamy. With love, metaphysically minded in Manistee.
Aww.
Cool.
Yes.
So I get this question a lot. Like, people come in and they're like, this is the dream. Like, I want to open up a store.
Right.
I'm really excited to talk to you about this because you own your own metaphysical business.
Yes.
I do retail. You offer a service.
Yes.
And so I thought that you would be a perfect person to talk to about this because between the two of us and between our experiences, we can talk about these two aspects. So service versus retail.
Yeah.
And the pros and cons of that. But before we talk about that, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story, maybe your spiritual journey, and how you got to the couch here today.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. It is like, I don't even know where to start because it's something that has just really been with me for my entire life. My dad passed away when I was 4. But I have always been spiritually connected to him. I was raised in the Catholic Church, which was actually kind of a beautiful experience in a way.
Yeah, sure.
I was so like dazzled by the way that energy can be lifted during like church ceremonies and stuff. The singing and it's like that stuff really stuck with me.
It's very moving. I remember crying a lot of times, even as a kid in church. And we were Lutheran, but same thing, just a room full of people like praising and feeling good and lifting the energy. It's powerful.
It really
is.
Very
Powerful.
And when you're like sensitive, like I've always been sensitive to energy ever since I was a kid. I didn't know it at that time. Like, why is this affecting me so much?
Right.
But now looking in retrospect, I understand that like I was just always really sensitive to those things and those feelings. You know, I was that kid that I would go to church and then I would come home and play with fairies in my mom's garden and like make little potions out of sticks and violets and mud. And when I was a teenager was when I like got my first witchcraft book. And it's fun. I love the listener letter too, because The Craft was not my movie, but like Practical Magic was like my movie, my 90s witch movie. So I can definitely relate to that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I got that first witch book. And
what was your first witch book?
It was by Silver Ravenwolf.
Was it
the
Teen
Solitary
Witch?
Witch?
Solitary Witch,
yes.
That's when a lot of people reached out towards.
Yeah.
Especially because they were by themselves.
Exactly. I was going to say it really resonated with me because I was like, oh, yes, I am. Like, this is a lonely path sometimes. Like, not everybody has an elder to, like, guide them or anyone in their lives that's interested in the same way as they are.
Yeah.
So it was a comfort and an inspiration. And then, like, yoga and meditation and breath work and all those different aspects have always been a big thing for me. When I was I love to remember I would print off meditations for astral travel when I was like 16 and then memorize them and like practice them in my bedroom. Like, that was before we had like so much access
to like YouTube, binaural beats.
I'm just sitting
like,
there like with my incense and my little printout,
like printing out MapQuest.
Yes, it really
for
was.
meditation.
So it was, just a very solitary path, and it waxed and waned, right? So like there would be times where it was a really big part of my life, and then times when it would slide away.
I think that's so common for people.
Yeah.
And I think that new practitioners are kind of like, oh, this is like, I have to dedicate my whole life to this.
Right. I have to be all in now.
You know, and I have to do it all right. You know, there's like so many, you know, maybe guidelines or restrictions that people put on themselves. But I think it is very common, and I enjoy hearing you say that you kind of wax and wane on this path, and like how perfect the moon waxes and wanes. And
right. I think
there's
it's
lessons
natural
in that.
To have that like meandering of...
I think it's necessary.
Yeah, because it gives you that space and time, like with so many things in life, right? Like we dive in really deep, but then we got to come back up for air.
Yes.
And like acclimate and there's another word that I can't think of. Integrate.
Yes.
Integrate is the word that I'm thinking of.
For sure. Well, there's something off the path for you to learn too.
Yes.
You know, and so you have to go through those trials and those tribulations and those hardships, or, you know, the joy that you find off the path too, so that you can integrate that back into the path as well later.
Yes.
So I do think that's necessary.
And that was really like most of my early 20s was like I still had my tarot cards, I still had my runes, I had all my books and stuff, but they were really on a back burner. Like once a year to be like, oh, it's a full moon, I'll do like a little full moon ritual, I guess. And then stuff really shifted for me when I got pregnant with my youngest son. And I really like mentors started coming out of the woodwork. Like suddenly I wasn't alone, and there was this, like, I don't know how to explain it other than like a feeling and a push in my gut. Like, okay, the time's now. Like, you have to dive into this, and you're going to dive into it hard, and you need to stop hiding and like let this part of you come forth and shine. Which was really scary. Yeah. And I knew that it had to be, like, I've been a hairstylist since I was 18.
Sure.
And I had my youngest when I was 28.
Okay.
So taking everything that I was and everything that I was doing and like knowing, okay, I got to turn it on its head and like let this huge part of who I am come forth and be a part of that too. Yeah. Because like my business is a huge part of my life, and I have to allow myself to be the fullest expression of who I am. Yeah. In that, or it's not real. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So and again, here we go back to talking about this path, like taking this spiritual path and then this, like, we'll say like normative path, or this like non-spiritual path, and integrating those two worlds together. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be devoting your time to both things equally, why not do them at the same time?
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of that, it's the reason that I call my business like Rituals Holistic Beauty is because I feel that when we are walking through our lives and expressing ourselves, like, we shouldn't be torn into pieces. Yes. We should be able to be a whole person. And part of that being a whole person is like not hiding parts of yourself and allowing you to be like everything that you are in business, at home, like when you're out shopping, like not being afraid to, I don't know, be your weird self. Yes. Like be your unique self.
Yes. Easier said than done.
It is. Yeah.
And we both are privileged in the fact that we have found that space
Yes.
in ourselves and acceptance within our communities and families to be that person.
Yes.
And we recognize that not everybody gets that opportunity, but eventually we hope that you will and you'll work towards that, because it is very freeing and very opening to be like, okay, finally get to see who I am and be
it's
that
really
person.
Scary too.
Oh, terrifying. I feel that way.
To open yourself up like that.
I still feel that way.
Yes,
I just went to a baby shower at a Lockenheath property, which is a fancy golf course here in town. And I walked in and everybody's wearing Han Solo clothes, like the boots, the brown boots that come up, and the khaki pants, and then the black vest. They all look like Han Solo in the white shirt with the hat. And like all the girls, and they all have like blonde, beautiful curly hair. And I walk in with like fur fuzzy boots and like a leather jacket, and I'm like, okay, I am different. I am different from these people here. Yeah. But and I even said something to somebody, and they're like, no, you look like a rock star. They're like, you look like a badass. And then I was like, all right, like I'm just like, I'm expressing something that they don't feel comfortable expressing in themselves, and maybe that's not who they are, but I'm like, you guys all look the same, in some way. It was a lovely baby shower, and I love my friend who is pregnant. But like,
beautiful too, because like having the fearlessness to be being yourself, whatever that is, in an
environment that I like, So like here, if I dressed like that, it'd just be like, that's the uniform, But like going into this environment, it was like, whoa,
you
I
weren't
am
like
singled
masking
out.
yourself. You weren't, and that can be like, whatever growth and discomfort it might bring to us individually, like that might be a radiant light for someone of inspiration.
That's
like
true.
You have no idea who you're inspiring just by being brave enough to like be yourself and not fit in.
Right. That's true. And that's a dialogue I have to have with myself every time I get into like an uncomfortable situation like that, where I'm like, oh, I'm different. I'm standing out. Yeah. But I also feel powerful, and I also feel cool, and I also feel strong in this. So it is tricky to be that person, and
I think that reflects in business too. Yeah. Like to be the business that's like
absolutely
the spiritual business and the metaphysical one, because like there's not a lot, especially up here in northern Michigan. Like you definitely stand out, and you don't know who you're going to inspire or who's like going to pick up that light and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here. Like I needed this. Right. I needed you to be you,
Yes. Perfect segue back into our letter here. So I love exactly what you're saying. And I think that goes to what this person was saying about kind of romanticizing this Hollywood crafted occult store from the craft, right? And like having the ingredients and the person there who can help you answer these questions, and especially for those like marginalized, like in high school, that they're not necessarily jocks, or they're not necessarily preps, they're not in the band, or maybe they are. Actually, a lot of a lot of my customers and clients are musically minded, because music is, but like kind of like the marginalized communities want somewhere to go where they feel accepted and where they feel welcomed.
Right.
And, there's coffee shops and bookstores and like all these things, and you can feel really comfortable in some of those places, but a place that is like advertising the weird.
Yes,
like we are the weird.
We want you.
We are the weirdos, mister. Like we want you here. Like, and so it's like I can't tell you how many people walk in here and go, "Finally, a store for me." Finally, like, and that's so inspiring to me. But yeah, like we had to create it, and it's definitely a niche store.
There's no roadmap. Either.
I had to, in like convincing the bank even that it's like, I want to open up this shop that sells cauldrons and, rabbit's feet and like all these like kind of obscure products. And I explained it to him like this. I was like, listen, when you travel, you're looking for the golf courses. When you travel, there's a whole community of people who are seeking out niche stores like this because that's where they feel comfortable.
Right.
And they're also creative. Metaphysical shops all around the country are all different. Like they're never the same.
Right.
You have ones, and even we have one here in town that's more like, and I always joke, it's like more like Love, Light, and Yoga. You know? Like it's like beautiful, but the walls are white and like, highlighted with purple. And it's very, very ethereal, very like crown, third eye focused, where we're like, we're red and rooted and grounded and passionate, and we're a little bit more on the seedy occult side of things, which I love. But I love that they're here too, because that creates a balance between the two of us.
Absolutely. That's the like it's a different flavor too.
Yeah.
You know, like not everyone likes chai tea and not everyone likes black coffee, and you know, there's different shops that specialize in different things and have different vibes, and like I think that's so important too.
Yes.
You know,
I
having
agree.
variety and having
I agree.
just that.
Which is, so should I open the spiritual store or should I open a metaphysical store?
Yeah.
Our answer to that is always going to be yes.
Yeah.
Like, go do it.
Yes.
Please.
We need more.
We need more. So like there's always room for more spiritual stores in the area. And I don't see this other shop in town as competition. I see them as the other side of my coin. They're the yang to my yin. Yeah. Right. So it's
100%.
like people are, if they're reaching for spirituality, they just need to have options.
Yes.
Right. And so maybe they want more of that love, light, and yoga side. So they're going to go there, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's great. And maybe they need more of the like rooted, grounded, compassionate, not that they're not compassionate, but the other side.
Yeah,
then they
that
come
different
here.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe they bounce between the two because we wax and wane on our paths, and
100%.
that's totally great, you know? But the same with like a service industry, right? So like you can go get your hair cut at JCPenney or Supercuts or other great small salons in town.
Yeah.
You know, and I encourage going to the smaller salons.
Yes, absolutely.
Please.
Always support small business if you can.
Always. But then there's the option of going to your salon and what you offer. So tell me a little bit about like what service you offer in your salon. So how that varies from a typical salon experience.
So, well, first off, I used to, like, I have been in every salon environment. So, like, I know how a lot of it works. I've done all of it. And I decided to create my services the way that I did because it was no longer resonating with me. It was putting me on a path to burnout and disconnection, essentially. So
just running through the motions.
Yeah, yeah. So my services are all called rituals. I have a couple different haircut ritual options. I also offer intuitive energy healing sessions. I've got a scalp ritual that I do. And the reason that I call them rituals is because we really sit down and set an intention at the beginning of the service based on how my clients want to feel when they leave. And we really move with slow intention through the entire service. It's really about them like being able to get what they need out of it. So for some people that's relaxation, and for some people that's release. For some people it's just joy, and or you know, whatever it is that they're seeking, we're holding space for them to feel that way through, you know, whatever it is, whether it's like a scalp ritual, which is a scalp massage with brushing and energy work and a meditation, or a haircut ritual, which, you know, we start with a really intentional consultation. I do a scalp massage and wash, energy work, cut and style. Yeah. And so it's just totally different than a...
How like, long does each like kind of ritual last?
So it depends. There's a basic haircut ritual is an hour service.
So it's like the same amount of time of going to a salon.
Yeah.
But you leave, instead of being like, you know, listening to gossip or like listening to like, you know, what's wrong with your stylist, because sometimes they just blab all over you. Instead, you're creating a sacred space for people to come and take this seemingly mundane activity and making it an empowering, impactful, ritualistic experience.
Yes.
Doing things with intention, like stopping and taking care of yourself.
And honoring ourselves. Like honoring your beauty, honoring your self-care, like honoring this time that you're dedicating to yourself.
Right.
Because we do so much thoughtlessly.
Yes.
You know, and that's something that I really seek to change, especially around people's like self-care practices.
Yeah.
Because when we move with intention and we move with love, and like that is the energy behind it, things change.
Yes.
Significantly.
Yes. So let me ask you, so like there are definitely cons to running your own metaphysical business. So one of the challenges I could see for you is trying to explain to people that they're coming in for a haircut, but it's not just a haircut. This isn't Supercuts. You're not going to be out in 10 minutes, right? Like you're going to have an experience while you're here. So how do you like advertise for that or explain that to the layperson who's maybe not spiritually inclined or not interested in like the spiritual side of things?
Yeah. A lot of those people aren't my clients.
Right.
First off, like you can like lead a horse to water and I can explain things until I'm blue in the face, but ultimately like the people that want to work with me find me. And for me, when I made this transition to working in this way, a lot of it was talking about it openly on social media.
Yeah.
Because that was a way that people would come across my page and they could watch 8 videos where I talk about why what I do is different.
Yeah.
And then they get to decide, like, do I want to step into that? Is this for me? But yeah, generally speaking, it's very hard to explain. And sometimes it doesn't get through right away.
Right.
Like, if that makes sense. So I think a lot of what I do too is that it's the intention and magnetism of like drawing the people that are meant for me.
Yeah. So I asked this question because lately, especially lately on like TikTok and all the social medias, I see the word capitalism being thrown around like a bad word. Like bad, you know, like capitalism sucks, you know, and in a lot of ways I really agree with that. I agree with,
same.
you know, like but as an entrepreneur and as a business owner,
it's hard.
You are innately a capitalist.
Right.
You're trying to bring money into your business because it helps
stupid.
fuel what you're doing, right? Yeah. So, but I think that there's different kinds of capitalism, and I think that, you know, a spiritually minded business or small business is definitely necessary to support, you know, even in a capitalistic way. So, but it's tricky. So like as an entrepreneur and even owning a metaphysical shop, we've limited ourselves to our clients, to a special niche client, right? So would I have been more successful if I just opened a tea shop where anybody could come in and just enjoy tea?
Right.
You know, that would expand my clientele and my demographic like immensely, like huge, like exponentially. And the same for you. If you were just like,
absolutely.
I'm just a salon.
I just do hair,
I just do hair. You would expand your clientele. But we've made this conscious decision to focus on a spiritual-based business. And so for a business owner or somebody looking to open up a business, you know, that's something to keep in mind is that you are working with a niche demographic and a small community. And in that, there's community.
Yes.
You know, you're not just getting every Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street. You're getting people who are coming back with intention.
That's probably been the most rewarding aspect. Like, of course we run businesses to make money. Like, of course we have to support ourselves. But like at the end of the day, the people that I get to work with now and the connections that I have and like the way that I get to help people is the most...
It makes you successful.
It's so amazing. It's just the best thing ever, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah,
like,
you are abundant, you are successful, you are wealthy in love and in experience.
Yeah, like abundance doesn't always mean cash.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying that it's not a profitable business or that you're, you know, but that's really not, I don't think that it's should be the number one goal.
Right.
Like, I think that your love and passion have to be up there equally.
Yes.
And with community, you know, it's all those things.
Absolutely.
It's an amalgamation of things.
Yes. You know, you talked about your clients coming in and the experiences that you have with these clients. I think that's something else to talk about in a metaphysical business capacity too, is that whether you realize it or not, if you open up a shop or start a service that is spiritually inclined, people are going to seek you out for answers.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize to the extent that would be before I opened this business. So I, I kind of like trial by fire. I didn't have anybody who had a podcast to answer my questions like this. And so I think that's definitely why I wanted to have you on, because I think this is a huge topic and people are like, I want to do this. And I'm like, please go do it. But also there are challenges and things that you should be mentally, physically, emotionally prepared for. I've had clients come in and talk about miscarriages. I've had, people come in and talk about divorce, abuse, physical, verbal, sexual. People come in and talk about the things that hurt them, death and dying. And you have to, create space for them if that's what you want to do in this job.
Right.
If you don't feel like you can handle people's emotions like that, or be able to leave it at the shop, or leave it at the salon and not take it home with you, then that's something you really have to consider before opening up this business.
Yes.
And in fact, I just saw a small business owner who I really admire. She's an herbalist and very talented, very personable, very cool.
Yeah.
Her services are amazing. She had a retail shop. She decided not to do the retail shop anymore because it was too much.
Yeah.
She was taking on clients on a one-on-one basis. And so she could create that singular space for a singular person, but an entire 8-hour day dealing with all these emotions and all these questions, and also answering spiritual questions like, why do you do this, or who are you? And having to defend herself and defend her practices. It just became too much.
Yeah,
and she
absolutely.
had to walk back and be like, I'm just going to do a one-on-one basis with clients who are coming to me with intention.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so you almost have to be like a therapist.
And I feel like that just point hit me really hard, that when you're working on a service basis, my doors aren't open to the general public. The people who are coming to me aren't just wandering in.
Yeah.
That's totally different than being in a retail store where anybody's wandering in at any time, and you probably do have to have a different level of protection and be ready. Yes, patience. And be ready for a wider variety of people than I would see in my space.
Right.
That's not to say that I don't ever get someone that's I don't understand this, but I want to experience it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah, and
because
that's
they're
great.
there for a reason.
Yes.
They stepped in your door for a reason, whether they don't get it entirely or not.
Exactly.
Same thing with here. I get people all the time that are like, what is all this crystal stuff? Yeah. I don't get all this energy stuff. And, I actually had a gentleman come in and be like, well, do you have any spells that'll make my wife clean the house better? And okay, so initially I'm mad, right? My initial reaction is you misogynistic asshole, right? But on the other hand, I could take a stance of anger. I could take a stance of how dare you, right? Or I could say, okay, this guy is using comedy to cover his curiosity and his inability to understand what we're doing here, right? So he's using humor to mask those feelings. Okay, I see you.
Yes,
I see that that's what you're doing. And so I responded with what's perfect for making your wife clean the house better is when you help and chip in and give her a hand and do things with her as a team, as a partnership. And his wife's face was perfect. I just love it so much because she was like, oh, damn. But, so it's I know other people who I might have asked to work the shop that have been how dare you get out of my store?
Right.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
doesn't solve anything. That doesn't open hearts. It doesn't open minds. It was just I was meeting him at his level of humor. And then I was saying, but that's not how we do things, And so then I talked about intention and how I talked about, the basics, right? I dumbed it down, kindergarten version of what magic is, right?
Yes.
And then he was like, oh, okay, I get it. And so it's having to explain things at a bottom level and incorporating real life situations into what magic really is. I like to use the example of everybody does spell work. You blow out your candles on a birthday cake and you make a wish. That's a spell. That's candle magic,
Yes.
And so people are like, oh, I never thought about it like that. I guess it's not too bad.
Right.
Right. And so just these little steps into letting these people who have no idea what you're doing, to let them know that it's all around us.
Yeah.
And we're all doing it already anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm not, stirring a cauldron and eating babies, You know, I'm not like doing these like terrible things. But just like making it approachable and being like, your neighborhood witch isn't really out to get you.
No.
You know?
No, not at all. But I think that's beautiful. That's like a really important thing for people to realize before they like throw themselves into opening a metaphysical store, is like realizing the variety, especially in a retail setting, of people that you're going to meet, and reminding yourself to like be patient and meet them at their level and be willing to coach and, you know, like talk people through things.
Yeah.
And maybe in some instances even having a thick skin, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. So I have a whole episode planned about this, but I wanted to just mention real quick about spiritual hijacking.
Yeah.
So there is like this aspect too where I've had multiple times people come in and corner me and be like, Jesus wants me to come in here and save your soul, you know? And so like, that's another thing that I have to like be strong about and be able to stand on my own 2 feet and be like, you want to talk about Jesus? Let's talk about Jesus. You want to quote scripture? I'm going to quote scripture back at you, you know? And so, and then having, you know, research behind and strength and passion behind who I am and what I do, so that I am able to stand on my own 2 feet and say, this is why I'm doing this. No, you cannot put hands on me to pray for me. I did not welcome that in my store. And so you have to be able to stand up for yourself in that aspect too. And I wanted to mention too, I recently had a situation where I was asked by my bank to, I was a small business feature of the month. Which is awesome.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
That's huge.
Right.
And I even remember asking the lady, I'm like, you know what I do, right? Like, you know, I was like, I'm surprised that you're asking me, because my business is alternative.
Right.
And I'm a little obscure and we have oddities. And it's not, you know, like I wasn't straight out like, this is a pagan-based witch shop. Are you sure you want me on the table? But I was like,
still,
we're different.
Right.
And I set up my whole display within 3 hours of the first day that it was set up. It was supposed to be set up for a month. I got a call that said I needed to take half of my display down because the customers coming in there were feeling uncomfortable about the satanic stuff on my table. First of all, nothing was satanic.
No.
My symbol is like a Star of David with a blessed be crescent moon with the 3 teardrops underneath it. And somebody was like, this is a satanic symbol. And one of the bank ladies was like, actually, it's like the Star of David with a crescent moon. Like, it's not. But like, I mean, these ladies were like clutching their pearls, like just terrified about what was on this table. And my initial reaction was, actually, I said to the lady, well, that's unfortunate. That's what I said. Like, that's unfortunate. She said that they couldn't have anything religious or political on the table. Okay. It's your business. You're trying to be a neutral ground. I get that. So I did graciously pull some of my items out of there. But it's surprising to me how much I still need to defend myself and how much I still need to be like, wow, this is, you know, society's hurt. Society needs somebody to blame. But it was also kind of scary because in the way that all it takes, like, we live in this world that's highly fueled by anger and violence. And that's just reality. That's just what it is. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it wasn't really like that. But it is like that today. And I have a family. I have people that I love. And I'm here all the time. Like, you want to find me, I'm here. So in some aspect, it was like, I could get angry about this. I could say something about this. But all it took is like one person who highly disagreed with what I was doing and took the stance of not in my town to show up in my door and be angry about it. And so that has, not that I live in fear, because I don't. But it made me kind of edit a little bit of how I
be aware,
and just to be conscious of that aspect of the world,
right?
But I think about that too with advertising. Like, do I want to put out Traverse City's witch shop? You know, like out there in the world, because
what will it attract?
What will it attract?
Have the like flow through with the intent, the like loving and beautiful intention that you have for it, or who is it going to activate? Unknowingly.
So one of her questions was, how has your community received you? And I would say the majority of the reception that I have had is way positive.
Good.
Is great.
Yes,
my
absolutely.
neighbors, you know, like when I moved in, I was like, the witch is moving in next door.
I love
and
it.
they all came to say hi. They all support me. They're just, they included me in different activities like scavenger hunts and stuff around
Cool.
town.
Yeah.
Immediately
so
I
good.
moved in, I felt like I belonged.
Yes.
And that is huge to me. So I know that I have community here. When I opened up, the amount of people who like came out of the woods.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know, if you could say like the crones, like
No, yeah,
they
we're all
came
just
out
in the woods waiting
like for a shop. And I didn't,
Yes.
you know, it was a if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And they did. They just came and they showed up.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful and amazing. And I'm so happy that I can be here for those people. Not only in this town, but 100-mile radius, 200-mile radius around this town.
No
Because there's
doubt.
nobody else in northern Michigan that's doing exactly what I'm doing here.
100%.
And so that has been overwhelmingly rewarding. The customers that I have, like you were saying, has been overwhelmingly rewarding.
It's beautiful and amazing.
Have you had any negative interactions with community for having like a spiritual based business or doing Reiki or?
I don't think so. I really haven't had any negative experiences or feedback, you know, since I moved my business. I really intentionally moved my business to Traverse City. I felt like a really deep-seated calling to be here. In the city I was in previously, I had was probably where I experienced my negative reception
Gotcha.
to what I was doing.
So you moved to get away from that.
Yes. And I kind of knew that that was coming when I first started. I'm like, ooh, these people, it made me realize how unaligned who I am was with who I was working with.
Sure.
Because there was this mass, like, leaving of people when they realized, like, oh, this is who you are. Oh, this is what you do. Like, nobody was rude. Nobody was cruel. Nobody, like, but a lot of
But there was an
people, there
exodus.
was rejection
Yeah.
and there was a leaving, which I think is something that needs to be said about opening a spiritual business too, is like you have to be prepared for your life to shift in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to release, you know, people and things that aren't meant to come with you.
Right.
Anymore.
Don't align with that spiritual path with you anymore.
Yeah. And they might come back. Like, that's
Sure.
not to say, like, people come and go.
Yeah.
To
I think that's a
you
good point,
bless
too.
and release, to, you know, you both have lessons to learn and things to do, and sometimes our paths cross again. But that was definitely a really big challenge for me when I changed things, was like feeling that rejection and that like loss and not allowing it to define what I was doing and where I was going.
Yeah. So
'Cause-
you've mentioned like loss and loneliness a couple times, and I think
Yeah.
that's a really interesting point to talk about with owning your small business too. And it's kind of like the darker side of owning the small business
Yeah.
also. Like there is definitely a loneliness factor, which seems ironic, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you have these clients who are coming in and blessing you with their time and energy, and you get to have this experience with them and this connection, this spiritual connection, which is such a unique and awesome experience.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like in the shop, I'm here all the time. People are coming and going. I'm surrounded by people for a good majority of my day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like there's like this like line in the Titanic movie where she's like, I felt like I was in the middle of a crowded room screaming my head off and nobody even looks up, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel as a small business owner. Like I am screaming about the taxes that I need to do and the administrative work that I need to do, the advertising I need to do, you know, balancing podcast and ritual room and,
Yeah.
you know, and then not to mention the fact that I have a family and kids
Right.
and they have violin practice and sports practice and, you know, like it's or they're sick a day, you know, God forbid
Right.
any of us get sick ever, you
Right.
know? So it's, you know, there's like so many other things that you're doing behind the scenes. And yeah, you can give an hour or a half hour of your time to these customers,
Yes.
which feels great and can be very fulfilling, can also be draining.
Yeah.
And then like, who do you talk to about that?
Right. And how do you refill your cup after you've been pouring
Yeah.
all day. Whether you're pouring into someone else's cup or you're pouring into the business or taxes or advertising, like you're
Right.
giving and giving and giving and giving. So like having strong resources to like find support, whether it's in people or therapy or like finding time and ways to do things that you love to like refill your cup. Like that's so important because it is lonely and dark sometimes.
You were
doing
telling
this
me
by yourself.
You were telling me about your commute. Tell us about your commute.
Oh yes, so I live like 45 minutes away from my studio, and I really enjoy listening to music, and it can be totally different from day to day based on like how I want to feel or what I want to release. But yeah, there's oftentimes that like I'll listen to loud screaming angry music on my way home and like sing as loud as I can and like scream on the way home just to like release that energy.
Yes.
And reset.
Yes.
And it's the same on the way to work too, because I've dropped my kids off. I'm out of mommy mode. Now I got to get into business lady mode.
Yep.
So it gives me that time and space to like settle into what I need to do and who I need to hold space for and all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a episode of That 70s Show where, do you like that 70s
Nope,
show?
I've never watched it,
it's so
actually.
good. Well, Kitty is like one of the nurses, or she's like the mom of the story, and she's a nurse, and she takes Eric, who's like the main character, to work with her, and they spend all day running this floor in the hospital, and they worked with this gentleman all day, and at the end of the episode, he dies. And like Eric's just like heartbroken. He's like, how can you just like, you're going to just leave this at like, he's like, don't you feel terrible? Like, aren't you sad?
Right.
And she just cranks her music and sings the whole way home.
Yeah.
Because she needs to decompress. She needs to let it out and she needs to leave it at work.
Exactly.
And when you're doing a job where you're caring for people, whether spiritually or physically, or through services, you can't take all that stuff home with you.
No, you got to leave it. There's got to be separation.
Yes. And so just decompressing that in some way. And I mentioned, too, that my poor husband doesn't deserve, like, he already has so many hats that he's wearing. He's a husband and, partner and father to my kids and housekeeper and breadwinner and, like, all these different things. And so for me to come home and just, decompress all over him is not necessarily, it's not his job,
Right.
So it is important to have a community too.
Yes.
I appreciate our friendship because I feel like I can be like, all of these things happen to me.
Yeah.
And you go, I get it.
Yes, absolutely.
And I hope you know that you have space to do that.
I do,
too.
yes. No, I think that's like, that community is part of what makes it feel less lonely. Like those people that you find that you're like, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life?
Yeah.
Like in those friendships, and it's just beautiful. So like, I think that would probably be one of my number one recommendations for people, though, thinking about opening a metaphysical store or a spiritual business of any kind, is like, make sure that you're really solid on your support.
Yeah.
Because it's scary and lonely and you're going to want to quit.
Yes.
And like those people that are rooting for you and supporting you, like they're the people that are going to keep you going.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And I would say, work with collaboration,
Yes.
like if you're doing the small business, like we are not in competition.
No.
And I'm not in competition with any of the other stores either. I don't have time and I don't have the patience for competition.
Yeah.
I'm in the business of collaboration. So like,
Yes.
let's see how we can work together, lean on each other, work with each other, and leaning on, and in opening myself up to that perspective, the amount of people who are in a similar boat to me have just like, they're all here, you know, like all of my vendors, like they're all in a similar boat. Like it's just, they're here and I didn't ask them to be here. They're just here.
Right.
And the universe just sent us all together so that we can all
Yes.
support each other. I will say this too. There is complications between, like the metaphysical side of being an entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial side of being an entrepreneur.
Totally.
And so know that going into this business too, if you are a maker or a crafter, if that is the big basis of what your business is, know that you will have less time for that.
Right.
Because you have to devote yourself to the administration side of things, to the bookkeeping side of things, to the advertising side of things. I encourage you to find balance in that early on. That's something that, you know, I feel like I need to devote days and days and days of my time to the administrative side. But if I don't break that up with some kind of crafting or some kind of making, some kind of pouring my energy into producing a product or producing an outcome, I lose myself and I start to resent my business, which is awful. The other thing is making sure that you treat your space as if it's a living entity.
Yes.
So loving the space that you're creating that business in. You want people to walk in and be like, oh, I just feel so good here.
Yes.
And that's a huge compliment that I get on a daily basis.
It doesn't happen by accident. It happens with great intention and great care.
Yeah.
You know, like you can feel the love that you put into this space. Every time I walk in here anyway, I'm like, oh yes, it's like cozy and comfy, and like that's because of you. Like it's not because of the building, it's not because of the space, it's you and everything that you bring.
Yeah, it's like my third child.
Yes.
You know, like, and when she's dirty, I clean her. When she's, you know, like when the energy is stalled in here, I move everything around, which people will tell you, like I move everything around constantly.
No, same.
It's never the same.
I do that too. Yeah. I have such a, like my clients will come and sit down, they're like, oh, did you rearrange? I'm like, yes.
Yes. I needed to.
Multiple times since I seen you last.
Shop told me to. Shop told me to. So there's like, you know, ultimately I want to reiterate and go back to the joy and magic that I feel in this store and the magic you feel in your space is 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000% the reason why you open a business.
Yes.
Is the magic that you're putting into the hands of the people.
100%.
You know, and whether, like I said, whether that's just little magic or little inclinations to remind people that they are magical.
Yeah.
Or whether that's I'm here to tell you how to set up ritual or how to set up your altar or help answer your questions about the Sabbats. You know, like I'm here for all of those things, big or small.
Yes.
And if you leave here having an experience where you feel magical, then I've done my job and I am prosperous and I'm wealthy and I'm abundant.
Yes.
And that makes me feel good. You might not have bought a single thing, and that's fine because I did my job today. So yes, we need more magic in the world. We need more energy in the world. We need more spirituality in the world. But do know that it comes with challenges.
Yeah.
And nobody told me that there'd be challenges.
Right.
I am a kind of person that's like, I'm just going to do it till it's done kind of thing. So
absolutely.
Which helps. You kind of have to have that.
No,
mentality.
truly. Because like there are going to be things that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
That will happen. Like every single thing you don't expect to happen is going to happen.
It's going to happen.
And it's going to be hard. And I can't tell you how many times that I wanted to quit.
Oh, yeah.
In the last couple years. There's like, this is too much. I got to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm so relieved that I kept going.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think getting over fear of failure is a really important thing too.
Huge.
You know, just deciding to do something and going for it makes you successful.
And even if you do like quote unquote fail, if something happens and it doesn't work out, like
it's just a learning
taking the leap and doing it anyway is like huge for growth and like it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like leaping into the unknown is one of the most beautiful things.
Absolutely.
You can do.
Yeah, it's very empowering, and again, it's just a learning, you know, it's a step in your learning path, and you know, whether you decide it's not for you or it is for you, like good, you did it.
Yeah, you'll never know how it's going to unravel until you start and choose to go.
Yes. Yes. Tanya, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Any other last parting words or advice or?
I don't know. I wish I had something off the top of my head, but I don't.
Okay.
I feel like this has been a really good conversation.
Good. Me too.
And I hope that it inspires our listener.
Yes.
Who wrote the letter.
Yes.
And maybe anyone else out there that's been thinking about opening some sort of metaphysical store or incorporating spirituality into their business. Like, be that light and do it. And
do it with intention and do it with love and do it for your community.
Yeah.
Creating a space like this makes you a healer.
Yes. 100%.
And you're a healer and I'm a healer and we do this because we are that. Where can people find you?
You can find me, we can connect on Instagram. My Instagram handle is tanya.hairandhealing. You can go to my website at www.glossgenius.com/rituals holistic beauty. Those are the best ways to connect with me is online. I work by appointment only, and all of that stuff is done over the airwaves.
Yes, I love it. So we will link all of those at the bottom on the show notes here so you can find Tanya. I highly, highly recommend indulging in one of her services.
Thank you.
She's very, very special. We also host hairbrushing rituals here at the shop focused around the new moons. Those are, it's a small, intimate community ritual, based on taking this mundane activity of brushing your hair and making it about self-love and self-care. And I love that our groups are no bigger than 10 people. So it's very cozy and intimate. Your friend has been bringing singing bowls and harps, and it's just such a moving experience.
Yeah.
You can find tickets to those events on our website at www.blessedbt.com in the events and the appointments section. You can find us online and on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Again, our website is out there too, blessedbt.com. If you want to send letters in to us, if you want to be one of our listener letters, please send them either directly to the shop at 116 East Front Street. That's the South Suite, Traverse City, Michigan, 49684. We'll list all of those handles on our show notes as well. Or you can email us, and we'll list that email down at the bottom as well. All of that information will come directly to us here at Blessed Be. If you want a chance at meeting me, you can come into the shop. We're here all year long, and I look forward to meeting you in beautiful Traverse City. It's an excuse to get up here because it's gorgeous.
It is.
It absolutely is. Tanya, you've been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Me.
Thank you for being in my network of entrepreneurs and friends, and it's really important.
It means so much to me that you're here and you're doing this.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It's my honor to be here. It really is a privilege for me to be here, and I am moved by our community every single day. So there's magic all around us, and it just makes me so happy. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. This has been Ask a Witch. I'm Bellamy Black. Have a great day.
This has been Ask a Witch with Bellamy Black, a podcast fueled by the curiosity of listeners like you. We have a strong presence on the World Wide Web. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Ask a Witch Bellamy. Check out our live recordings on our YouTube channel at Ask a Witch Bellamy. Handles are listed in the show notes. For a chance to meet Bellamy in person, visit Blessed BT and Apothecary in Traverse City, Michigan.